Mario and Luigi are bigger than Mickey Mouse. And
Right.
it's the same thing with Marvel. It's the same thing with Star Wars. It's the same thing with how many other Disney properties that are getting shoehorned into stories that don't work for those characters.
We know that Disney is in tremendous peril right now. They have seen all sorts of issues from their parks to their movies to all sorts of issues stemming through their company. They have gone in all sorts of crazy directions, really, since 2020 when the pandy hit. They had some major issues that ultimately culminated in their most recent release, the most recent live action release of The Marvels, which was a record low opening, followed with their latest animated movie, Wish, seeing tremendous low box office as well. So there was a recent earnings call with Disney CEO Bob Iger on it, and people were like, "Well, how are you going to fix this?" And Bob Iger has come with one of the most tone-deaf, dumbest ways to fix things ever. Now, I will say this. At its core, I understand what he's saying, but it's also the most dumbest thing ever. So let's go over here to IGN with this story. It's crazy. Disney CEO thinks The Marvels is underperforming because there weren't enough executives. Bob Iger wants more cooks in the kitchen, apparently. So at the DealBook Summit, which Elon Musk was rolling through like a like butter with a hot knife, he was in here and he's talking about the quality over quantity aspect that they're going with now, which is something they talked about in the last week or so. They've decided, instead of just pumping shit out, let's say, hey, let's make some good stuff. How about that? And people will come and watch it. And he says, quality needs attention. It doesn't happen by accident. Quantity, in our case, diluted quality, he said, per NBC News. And he was talking about The Marvels in particular. And Iger said, part of the reason it's falling short is because it was shot during the COVID-19 pandemic. And therefore, there wasn't as much supervision on set, so to speak, where we have executives that are really looking over what's being done on a day-to-day basis, pretty much. I would say right now, my number one priority is to help the studio turn around creatively. So if you're doing that, do you really want executives on set telling everybody what they're doing wrong? Because from what I've heard, the Marvels movie is actually pretty okay. The problem is that nobody wanted to see it because, and for a number of reasons, obviously, people are sick and tired of Disney. There's superhero burnout, Brie Larson burnout. There are a number of different reasons.
I've never heard that.
I've heard that it's okay.
I heard it was absolutely terrible and that Captain Marvel is like her own villain of the movie.
Maybe that's the case. I don't know. I've just heard that. But I don't think, regardless of what you think of the movie, right? I don't think that by them having another set of eyes or two sets of eyes from an executive position and saying, no, we need to do this, is really going to pull them out of the hole that they're in.
If they're going to have like all these people going all full-blown message and just do whatever the hell they want, and you bring in an executive producer who's seen all this and is going, whoa, what is this? Change this right now. Hey, that might actually fix stuff. If there's nobody supervising and actually seeing this stuff day to day happen, which I think is really funny. If they're saying that it was shot during COVID, there's so much technology now that you can literally just set up a web camera and see what's going on. Why are you telling me there's no supervision? This is Disney. They got all the supervision in the world.
Wait. So Blabs, you think that Bob Iger's solution is correct? Get more executives on set, not executive producers.
No, I'm saying get more people who actually care about the project, who actually want to deliver a project that has no message in it. It's just a family-friendly, fun movie. Then if you're going to bring in more of the same people, then it's just going to cause more issues. But if you bring in new people with new solutions who actually have a history and a career instead of just bringing in new people who've never written stuff for shows before in your life, then you're going to get the same shit over again. But if you bring in, like I said, new people.
Okay, but hold on. Let's take a step back here, Blabs. These executives who they're bringing in, right? These may be, they may or may not be tied to the movie. They may not. And you remember that whatever the message is that's being pushed in it, whether it's girl power, whether it's whatever. And once again, if you want to push that stuff, great, do it. Ultimately, the audience will decide. But these executives hire the people to make the decisions to ultimately greenlight these movies, right? These executives, in many cases, are the ones greenlighting these movies. So they know what the message or what the plot of the story is going to be going in before, like, all these things are gone over way before they say we're going to budget $100 million for this movie. You don't just throw $100 million out. So they know what's coming before they invest in the movie.
But if you have those people at the top of the line who are not greening light these shitty ass projects, then none of these projects would exist. So I'm saying bringing new people for new projects who won't release this stuff, then we have a solution. If you just, like I said, bring in the same people for the same type of projects, for the same type of message, obviously nothing's going to change.
Okay, but once again, Blabs, you're talking about people who greenlit this project and you want them to go oversee it already. You're right.
He says new people. They didn't greenlight it. If there's new people coming in and fixing it,
no, he's saying
the same people.
He's saying existing executives. He's not talking about cleaning house. So that's what needs to happen.
Forget about it. Forget about it. They're all fucked now.
Right. Like, and that's the reality.
They want more top-down control. That's the main issue, and what that's really why many of us would feel that Iger is out of touch, because he doesn't quite understand that you need to have people who actually care about this stuff. I interviewed Jim Shooter, and he was lamenting about the fact that Ike Perlmutter was getting shoved out the door because Ike Perlmutter cared about Marvel. Jim Shooter at one time was actually going to buy Marvel before, one of the corporations ended up buying it out. And, the thing is that at the time, by pushing him out, you're pushing the last person who actually cared about the integrity of Marvel, about what Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and all these people built, not just from the comic books, but now the movies. Because the movies around 2015, 2016, around that era, when Secret Wars, that version of Secret Wars happened, that erased the 616 and erased the Ultimates universe and combined them into one universe, and then basically transformed the entire Marvel continuity into storyboards for the MCU, and made it really terrible movies after Endgame. Now, mind you, there might have been some diamonds in the rough there. I've heard that The Marvels was actually a decent flick, right? But how many different movies are being made now, or TV shows that are being made now, and they're not really good stories. They're not worried about telling a good story. They're more about selling a message, being preachy about it. And even if you believe in those things, how come you're not telling it in a good storyline? Why are you not making it engaging and fun and enjoyable and actually care about these characters, which is exactly what the actress who plays Miss Marvel in the movie saying, like, hey, we want movies that are good. How come we can't get movies that are good? How come we can't get stories to care about them? I want to care about Miss Marvel. Can you tell me a story that makes me actually care about her?
Right.
Do you have to change the fundamentals of a character like Captain Marvel, where Marvel is fundamentally changed in the movies because you feel like it? You can't deliver for us with a comic book accurate version of a character. Come on now, like, forget about it. Like, we're not going to be engaged in these movies. But then on top of that, we've seen how many superhero flicks nowadays. If you're not going to be engaging us and telling us good stories, if the movie is not good, it doesn't matter if we care about the character anymore. If you're not going to tell a good story with that character, I don't want to see it. So now someone, like, not just me, but like so many people are not going off to see these movies, and they're not making the money because people don't want to go see it. They want to see good stories. It's why you see other movies all of a sudden show up and make bank, because like the Super Mario movie is taking them to lunch. Of course. There was a time, who was it? The actor who played Luigi in the Super Mario Brothers Super Show said, "We're bigger than Mickey Mouse." Well, yeah, now we can literally say Mario and Luigi are bigger than Mickey Mouse. And It's the same thing with Marvel. It's the same thing with Star Wars. It's the same thing with how many other Disney properties that are getting shoehorned into stories that don't work for those characters. So, yeah.
When you look at, I'll tell you, let's continue with this article. There's a little bit more in this article, which I want to continue, because it's actually quite telling to when you hear his thought process here. It says, still as mentioned, here we go. Still as mentioned, Iger has repeatedly stressed that Marvel and Disney at large will be slowing down on the churn of content that ramped up exponentially with the launch of Disney Plus in 2020. calling it a definite mistake to increase output so heavily. He, however, still defended making sequels at Disney, saying he doesn't want to apologize for it. Some of them have been done extraordinarily well. They've been good films too. Some of them have been good. Some of them have been pretty good films, which means some of them or most of them have not. I think you are there. I think there has to be a reason to make them. You have to have a good story, and often the story doesn't hold up to us not as strong as the original story. That can be a problem, right? So the idea of like just because the first movie did good doesn't mean you have to go back and make a sequel. Like you don't have to make a sequel.
The only reason the first Marvel's movie even did well was because it was wedged in between the Avengers movie. So everyone's like, this is amazing.
Right.
Let's go see this. And it wasn't even that great of a movie. I'll be honest. I was bored when I watched Captain Marvel, the first one.
This is interesting here. He talks about the transition between with Bob Chapek after he left and then Bob Chapek came in 2020. He says, I was disappointed in what I was seeing in the transition period while I was out. So he's like, Bob Chapek sucked. I worked hard at distancing myself from it. And this is interesting. He said he added that he would definitely step back as CEO once his contract is up in 2026. He said he's been fixing a lot of problems that the company has had and dealing with a lot of challenges, reiterating previous statements that Disney has been in a period of fixing after a year of layoffs and box office.
He made those problems.
Yes.
He made those problems. And then he got Chapek in to be the fall guy.
It's amazing. It's amazing to see.
He got fired from an Elton John concert.
What's that, Blabs? One more time.
Bob Chapek?
Yeah.
He got fired during an Elton John concert. What was it, like on a Sunday night or something? So it's like, damn, bro, you really are evil.
But Iger never left.
Exactly. No,
Iger never left. He was still there. He still had the office with the shower.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to Michael Jordan it, come back with the 4-5 on, with the 45 on, and come in and make a change. And I'll tell you what, he's playing like Michael Jordan of the Barons instead of Michael Jordan of the Bulls, at least being an executive right now, which is crazy. So anyways, I just found that incredibly hilarious. And I like, yes, we need more people on set telling people what's wrong.
No, what you need is you need to have people who care about the property, care about the story, care about the characters. I say this about Transformers all the time. Again, it's always going to come back to these robots in disguise, man. I care about the characters. I care that Trailbreaker laughs because he, realizes he's a gas guzzler of a vehicle and he wants to try and get everybody's get the morale up among the Autobots. I'm using him as an example of a character that, like, hey, I care about. You know what I mean? Like, that you would never ever care about. But if you actually look into the bios of these characters, if you have someone who cares about Spider-Man, cares about Captain America, cares about Iron Man, cares about Luke Skywalker, cares about Han Solo, any of these properties, if they actually cared, they would deliver us good stories with those characters in mind. And you can tell a good story over and over again, and and use whatever character you want. If you care about that character, how will that character behave in that same situation? So, and unfortunately, you have people who are not willing to tell those good stories. They're more so trying to tell you something, and then using the characters as a forefront to tell that message, and it's not really correlating into a good story.
But what do you think about this? Leave us a comment down below. We read every single one of them. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe button because you have found your home for common sense in the gaming and entertainment worlds.